today we're just going to look into how we can get to build chatbots. That's just it in short. So conversation AI really allows organizations to be able to have direct communication with their customers, and with this form of AI, you can really get to create a custom conversation with your customers without needing to have a sales representative or someone to engage with them directly. So using this conversation AI, your customers are able to connect with it and get what they need done just using the platform. Okay, but I would just want to start with actually 3 brain teasers just to get everyone. We've had a very long day. So based on what we can see on our screen, which is heavier, a pound of feather or a pound of rocks? Anyone knows the answer to this? Which is heavier, a pound of feathers or a pound of rocks?
You can send your answers in the comment section.
Okay.
I personally think a pound of rocks. I might be wrong.
Okay, anyone wants to? That was a good answer. Anyone has another good answer?
Victoria says they weigh the same. Oluwaseun says none is heavier.
Okay.
Felipe says they're the same. David also says they're the same.
Okay. Yeah, so actually they're the same because it's the weight. So the weight is a pound. So irrespective of how light you think a feather is, once it's a pound of feather, it's the same as a pound of rocks. Good. We are doing well. We are doing well. So brain teaser number 2. There is a greenhouse inside, and inside the greenhouse there is a white house. Inside the white house there is a red house. Inside the red house there are lots of babies. What is it? So this is kind of tough.
I don't know. Please leave your comments. Please leave your comments.
So it's really important we do some of these things and not just go into the technical details at first. Let's play a little because after all, we are humans.
Okay,
so
someone said watermelon. Oh. Someone answered. Someone said, sorry to cut you off. Someone responded and said watermelon.
Watermelon. Okay, that's the answer. That's the answer. That's a beautiful one. We are doing well. Then number 3. I exist only where there's light, but direct light kills me. What am I? This is quite simple. Okay, I exist only when there's light, but light kills me.
Wow, Oluwafemi is just giving us back to back. He said shadow.
Shadow.
Oluwatomi said shadow. Oluranti also said shadow.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's the correct answer. We all did well. Just give yourself a round of applause wherever you are. Okay, so getting into it, my name is Kayode Ajayi. I'm a Power Platform / Azure AI developer here at Ha-Shem. A little bit about I'm an entity, a Power Platform app maker and functional consultant. I'm a lover of AI, mixed reality, virtual reality, game development, and 3D animation. And those are the links where you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram, as well as Twitter. So getting into it, this session is really going to be more of a demo, right? But we can't just jump into the demo. We still need to have some understanding of what is going on in the background. So we are going to start with an overview of conversation AI. AI is everywhere today. There is almost no application or nothing you do that we don't see AI present. Even on your phone, you see AI everywhere, in your camera, when it comes to your chats, you see autocorrect, you see all of these things, and a lot of these services are being fueled by AI. And even when it comes to the business as a whole, we see AI being embedded more into business daily activities. And another way that you can actually get this working for you is through the use of conversation AI. And we'll go into details of that. Then we're going to be looking at language understanding. So when we're talking about conversation AI, then there is now the question of how do we get to understand what the user, or how do we get to understand what is being said? And that's where language understanding comes in, and we're going to talk about that. Then we're just going to run through a demo on a chatbot, and how you can get to create it. So actually this program is supposed to be a 2-part series. So we are going to, okay. So it's a 2-part series. So we're going to make, okay, it's supposed to be a 2-part series. So wherever we stop today, we are going to continue the next time. All right. So now just going straight into it, what is conversation AI? Conversation AI makes it possible for computers to recognize human language, comprehend what is being said, determine the right response, and respond in a way that mimics human conversation. So that is conversation AI. Really, what it just means is that, rather than just having hard-coded text and all of those things, the big picture is that the AI is really able to first of all, recognize what is being said, determine the right response and respond in a way that mimics human conversation. So what makes it work? So there are majorly 3 components of conversation AI that really, by the time you bring everything together, you have a fully functioning program. So first of all, we start with natural language processing. So what natural language processing really is you being able, or the program being able to process the text that's been given to it, more like break it into little chunks. And it's quite similar to natural language understanding, because with natural language understanding, you decipher the meaning in the user's words regardless of how it's stated. So when it comes to natural language processing, it's really about, okay, natural language processing is really based on a text level. So for a particular text, you are able to process it, and you're able to get the tenses, what it's a past tense and all of that. Then when we now say natural language understanding, you're able to decipher the meaning. So irrespective of how the words has been said, irrespective of how it's been said, you're able to decipher the meaning. Then natural language generation talks about how the AI can actually generate a response in a format that is easily understood by the user. Then, so now let's just look deeper into natural language understanding. Now, because when we are going to start the demo, we'll really start from natural language understanding. So natural language understanding, and Microsoft has a service called LUIS. LUIS means language understanding and intelligence service. So with LUIS, you are really able to add language understanding into your products. So LUIS is a machine learning based service to build natural language into apps, bots, and IoT devices. You can quickly create enterprise ready custom models that continuously improve. So, and that's one thing that we're going to see about LUIS, is that you can continuously, that you can really do it in a way that it gets to learn, and you can actually help it make better decisions over time based on how the users are interacting with your bots. Then has been designed to identify valuable information in conversations. So Lewis interprets user goals, and that's actually called intent. So what intent really means is the ability of the program to be able to decide what the user is trying to do. For example, when we're talking about conversation, let's not go too technical. When we are talking about conversation, generally, when you are having a conversation, it's usually centered around intent, in the sense that you are trying to communicate something. When I'm meeting with you, I'm not just meeting with you, even if we are meeting for fun and we are just chit-chatting, well, that is an intent. Chit-chat is an intent. So that means that our conversation style is going to be adapted to the chit-chat format. Then also, if we are in a professional environment and I'm trying to give a presentation like this, the language is going to adapt to the presentation. So when I say I want to present, the program can understand that and say that is a presentation intent. When I say go to the next, changing intent. So depending on your use case, you can actually get to craft intent into your application, and based on the user input, the bot is able to switch in between different intents, and and you can distill valuable information from sentences, and that is where entities come up. So that's when we're talking about entities. So what that really means is that, for example, if I say I'm going to Lagos, um, and it is a travel application. So let's bring it into the business case. Let's bring it into a business use case, right? So for example, there is a travel agency that wants to be able to help their users to just by interacting with the chatbot, probably on their Facebook page, the users can actually start booking orders for spaces on their bus. And you can using entities, you can use it to extract important information, as is written here, valuable information. So for example, to a travel agency, the location where you are going is an entity, is an important information. And from using this capability, you are able to extract those entities from the text, from the conversation. Then Louis integrates seamlessly with Azure bot services, making it easy to create a sophisticated bot. So Azure bot services really brings a whole lot to the table, and and that's really what we are doing here. That's why the topic is using bot framework composer and Louis AI. So the bot framework composer is packaged with the Azure bot service, and it's the product that Microsoft created for the creation of bots. Okay, so and on the next page, let me just go to the next page where we are going to look at Microsoft Bot Framework. So the Microsoft Bot Framework is, you can see it's along with the bot service, Azure Bot Service. It provides tools to build, test, deploy, and manage intelligent bots all in one place. So the bot framework includes a modular and extensible SDK for building bots, as well as tools, templates, and related AI services. Now, if you really observe something that Microsoft is trying to do in the business environment, so to speak, is they're really trying to make things, create easier ways of implementing complex things. So the bot framework, as much as the bot framework is really for core devs and is really for writing code, Then they went ahead to create Bot Framework Composer. And Bot Framework Composer, it just abstracts all of the code base of the Bot framework, and it presents it to you with a visual authoring canvas. So the Bot Framework Composer is an open source visual authoring canvas for developers and multidisciplinary teams to build bots. So Composer integrates language understanding services such as LUIS and Kayode and Emulator, and allows sophisticated composition of bot replies using language generation. So now this is a whole lot that we've talked about, and we'll be going into the demo, and from there we're really going to see how these things are done. So right now I would just want to switch to so I want us to have a view of the tools first of all before we go ahead and create anything. So okay, I hope we can see my screen with the Bot Framework Composer.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So this is the Bot Framework Composer, and you can easily download it by going. So you can easily do a Google search for Bot Framework Composer, and you can get it to download here. So you can get it to download from the docs page. So this page is actually going to give you an a walkthrough of how you can actually get it downloaded and installed. So, but some things that you must have before you can get it working: you must install the Bot Framework Emulator. So there are two things that we're really going to be using. We're going to be using the Bot Framework Composer. That is really where we get to architect the bot conversation and all of that. Then we are going to be using the Bot Framework Emulator, which is a tool that helps you to test the bot. So, and the good thing about this is you can actually build your bot offline. You can build your bot offline, so you don't need to be online. Once you just have your Bot Framework Emulator and your Bot Framework Composer, you can build your bots offline. So it takes away that bottleneck of having to be online. So you need the Bot Framework Emulator. You need, and you can see here is actually a link for you to get the emulator. Then you need to have .NET Core SDK on your computer, and so you download the Bot Framework Composer. And so now this is the Bot Framework Composer. Let me just quickly show us around. So with the Bot Framework Composer, as I said, is really where you get to architect your bot. So in order for us to get started, we can just come over here and create a new bot. So this is the Bot Framework Composer, and let me quickly switch over to the Bot Framework Emulator. And this is the Bot Framework Emulator. So where you get to test your bot, as you can see, it's written here, starts by testing your bot. So you can open your bot, and if you already have your bot deployed on your Azure bot service, you can sign in here, and you can also test from the Bot Framework Emulator. So over here, in order for you to start creating a bot, and if you remember from the presentation, we mentioned that there are lots of get started. So in case you want to learn this, or you just want to see how things are being put together, you can come over here. You can see examples. The examples bring together all the best practices and supporting components they've identified all over the years. Okay, so you can choose an echo bot. What an echo bot really is whatever you say, it repeats it. So you can use that as a base to start understanding how the input and output works with the Bot Framework Composer. And an empty bot is just a blank bot, simple to do with LUIS, dialogue actions, and all of these are just samples capturing several little portions and presenting it to you so you can understand what's going on. So, but for you to build your bots, you can either click on new here, or you can come here and click on new. So, so now there are options you have to create a new bot. So you can see you can either create from scratch. So let's say you just want to create a bot from scratch, right? You want to engineer everything from within the application. You can do that, and you can also create. You can also create from a knowledge base. So talking about Azure Cognitive Services, which is really something I should have talked about in the presentation. Louis is a part of Azure Cognitive Services, and there's also another component, knowledge base, another component for knowledge base, which is Q&A Maker. So just a little overview of Q&A Maker. Q&A Maker allows you to just kind of create an FAQ style bot, okay? So let's say, and it's called, that's why it's called a knowledge base. So from a website, you have FAQs, you know, simple question and answer pairs. So with the Q&A Maker, you can actually get to create a bot from here just using your Q&A Maker app. And so you can do that. And you can also create from templates, which is those templates that I showed us just now. So, but now we are going to be creating from scratch. So as I said, this is a quite complex topic, right? And so that's really why we are looking at having it as a two-part series. So right now we are just going to try to get comfortable around the environment. We just test some little input and output and see what is possible, right? Then from the next installments, then we are really going to go deeper and build more versatile applications, because you can actually go really deep. You know, you can actually get to build full featured applications, so to speak, using a bot. And we are going to see all of that. So for now, let's just create a simple, let's just call it an intent bot, for the sake of just understanding how to switch between intents. So let's just call it an intent bot. So right now we are not building a business application. We are just kind of breaking it down and try to see how the input and output works with the bot framework composer. And so over here in the description, you can just add a description, or you might not. It's not compulsory. Okay, so this is the interface that is being presented to you. And this is really where you get to start. So, but let's just do something. One thing they've actually done is they've created a single intent for us, which is a greeting intent. So what we can just do is, let's just click on Start Bot here, and let us see what they've done for us. All right, so it's just going to start over there. That's because this is the first time I'm running this bot. It usually takes a little while, but later on you're going to see a pop-up and a button for us to test in the emulator. So while we wait for that, let's just see what is all around here. So you can easily navigate back to the top level just by coming back to home. So that is where we were coming from, where you got to create your bot. And now you can see this is a new bot here. And so over here, you can see this is design. This is where we get to design our bots. If you check the hover, or I can just expand this. So you can see this is design. This is where you get to create the bots. And bot responses is, so everything the bot is saying. So there's something built into this bot framework composer. And you know, the system is very versatile, right? Because Louis is built into it, and language generation is actually built into it. So this bot responses is just giving us a preview of the language generation aspect. Okay, so here it's popped up already, but let's still come over here. So user input is really talking about the input of the users, okay, and we are going to see all of this populate while we start building. So Q&A, this so you can see even within here also you can actually create your knowledge base. So rather than you having to go to Lewis and create something, or go to Q&A Maker and create something from within this software, you can do all of those things. Then diagnostics. Okay, just giving you info about your bot. Then publish. This is where you get to publish it to your bot service, right? Then settings is really where you get to add the keys and all of those things for the application. So, so let's get back to our bot, and let me close this down. And okay, so over here, I can just open the Start Bots panel, then test in Emulator. As you can see, this button. So what this does is similar to web development, where you have a local host. So there is a local server that is actually shipped with this bot framework composer. And what it does really is that it starts the server and allows you to be able to test it using the emulator. So I'm just going to click on, so that's why you can see if you on the hover, you can see local host, then it's showing the endpoint. So let me just click on testing emulator. So what's going to happen now is going to launch emulator with the bot. So all right. So now you can just see here, it says welcome to empty bot sample. So this is the emulator anyway. As you can see, this is kind of like a chat interface. So you can type your messages here, and but currently there's nothing there, right? We just have this simple greeting, which we can see here in our bot. Let me close this one. So which we can see here in the bot. So this is it, the simple greeting. So now let's understand what is happening here, right? So this, first off, it might actually look daunting, it might look scary, because you can see lines and charts, and I won't believe there are some people that don't really fancy seeing charts, so it might actually look scary. But this is it's a very simple tool that makes it easy for you to do a lot of complex things. So just walking through it, some, should I say, nomenclatures. So when we are talking about bots, when we are creating bots and all of that, there's something called dialogue. We've talked about intent and we've talked about entity during the presentation, but there's something called dialogue. And dialogue is what happens when an intent has been recognized, then you can begin a new dialogue under that intent. So I'm trying to remember the example I gave before. So, well, for example, in a conversation, if I say, okay, talking about the travel agency example I gave, for example, if the user says, I'm going to Lagos, right? What intent is recognized? A travel intent is recognized. There could also be an inquiry intent. So that's just the person saying, how much is it to go to Lagos? So that is an inquiry. Then you saying, I want to go. So for example, that inquiry, your response might just be, okay, to go to Lagos, it costs 4,000 naira. But if I say I want to go to Lagos, you could recognize that as, well, a travel intent, and you say, okay, book your travel. So that's really, so you can actually have different intents depending on what you're trying to build. You can have different intents. So what a dialogue really is a dialogue is the conversation that follows an intent. So once the intent has been recognized, what is the flow of conversation after that? So that is what a dialogue is. So because we are going to be seeing, so now if you observe over here, this is a dialogue. This is a dialogue. This is a greeting dialogue. And you can see the dialogue is now made up of different more like steps of answers. And we'll see this better. So let's not look into the details of what has been done here, but let's just come over here to send a response. So that response we saw, that greeting we saw, is that's this is where it's coming from, right? And so over here, you can see welcome user. And you can see up here, language generation. So if you just hover, I always like to hover on things when I see any opportunity to hover because it gives you more information. So you can see language generation here is saying what your bot says to the user. Okay, so it's a template used to create the outgoing message. It can include language generation rules, properties from memory, and other features. So that's beautiful. So it means you can actually get to generate what what the response is. But you can see welcome user here. This is not really what we saw, right? So this is this is a variable. And if I hover on this quickly, you can see welcome to the empty bot sample. So that is the actual message we got, right? And so where did this come from? That's where this tab comes. That's where this bot responses comes in, right? And this is where, so if you come over here to common, and here you can see welcome to empty bot sample. And what you can actually do, you can actually add, so let's just edit that. Okay, we said this is intent bot, so let's just say, hello, I am intent bot. Okay, and you can add more lines. So if you come over here, you can edit, and you can actually get to add more lines. So if you notice, I am putting a dash before I type. So this is language generation. This is what language generation, this is how it works. So I can just say hi, hi, welcome to intent bot, right? So I can do that. And okay, the time is already fast spent, so quick. So now you can see we have two responses. What is really going to happen behind the scene here is that once it launches, it's going to randomly choose in between these options that we have. So you can actually have a form of a natural looking bot, because it's not just giving the same responses all of the time. And if you look deeper into language generation, you can get to add conditions and all of that to just make the conversation much more natural. So we are just going to leave that way. And so now this is the conversation. This is the first intent. This is the written intent. Then how do you add more dialogues? How do you add more intent? So that's where this comes in. So over here, let's just quickly hover on some things here. So if I just click on these dots where it says actions, so you can see add a dialogue, right? And if I come over here, so this is a dialogue. This intent bot is a dialogue. And here you can see add a trigger. Good. So what is a trigger? A trigger is what makes is related to the intent, right? What triggers the intent? So that's really what we can actually do here. So right now, let's just add a trigger. Let's add a trigger. And here it says type of trigger. And you see there are different types of trigger, Q&A intent recognized, but we're just going to use an intent recognized trigger. So it says, what is the name of this trigger? Okay, so this is language understanding here. You can actually get to do all of that. So let me just say go home. So forgive me for not having a much more business-centric example. So still similar in the same concept of natural language generation. So this is, as you can see, says add some example phrases to trigger this intent. So I'm going to show us something after now, but now you can see this trigger that we are using here is a Lewis trigger. And what that really means is that we have language understanding. So there's another kind of trigger, regular expression trigger. That one recognizes only what you type here. But when you use a Lewis trigger, then you don't have to type all the possible examples of the text. okay, you can be flexible with it and it's actually going to recognize it. So let me just say, I want to go home. I want to go home. Okay, so that's an example. And this, let's say I am done here, right? Let's say I need to go. Okay, so let's just have that. Okay, then we can actually add entities. So within language understanding, there's something called pre-built entities, and there's custom entities. So if you remember, I said entity is a way to extract useful information, right? So we could actually have some entities embedded in our text. We are not going to do that now. We just want to test the simple inputs and outputs. But if we are going to have entities, this is the format to do that. So you're just going to add an @ symbol, and you know, you just have it that way. Then you click on, so we just click on submit here. And okay, so you see immediately, just immediately, you can see it says it's showing an error. And once you have an error, you can access the error from here. When you get there, so over here at app settings, okay, so I can just double click on that and it takes me there. So it's saying I need a Lewis authoring key. I need a Lewis authoring key. I already have that here, but what you can do is you can go to your Azure, to your Azure instance. Let me look for a safe. Okay, so you can go to your Azure instance. So let me just say portal.azure.com, and so this is the resource that allows it to connect to language understanding. So you can just quickly do a search for Lewis, right? You can do a search for Lewis, and you're going to see it here, language understanding, and once, okay, some time to load. So, but that's it. So this is really where, so you can see create authoring resource. So the authoring resource is really what allows you to be able to connect to the service from the back end. So I'm just going to, okay, let me copy the one on this place. Let me copy this. So let me just copy that. And come back to design. Okay, we'll come to settings. Then I'm just going to paste that here, right? The authoring key. And really, let me, so you can see it's no more complaining. Let's come over here. Let me just restart the bot. So while I restart the bot, let me just show us, you know, what we can actually get to, what we can get to benefit by going through this route. And so, you know, I mentioned Azure Bot Service, right? Which is alongside the bot framework. So what Azure Bot Service allows you to do, okay, there's no instance here. So, but what Azure Bot Service allows you to do is it allows you to deploy your bots in different channels. So, okay, let me just do a Google search, right? Azure Bot Service channels. So you can actually get to see the different channels that you can run your bots. So let me just open those two. And then let me just scroll down. So you can see you can deploy your bot on any of these channels on Facebook. So that's Facebook group. You can deploy it there. Skype, Slack, Telegram, all of those things. And by the next installment, we're actually going to build something and deploy it, and we really get to see it being embedded. So that's what bot service is. So back to our bot here. And okay, so that is done. So let me just test in the emulator. So since we've already started testing it, you don't really have to click this button again. You can just come to your emulator Okay, you can just come there and click on restart conversation. So so it's restarted the conversation. Chisom, please, when is this session rounding up? Because my time looks gone.
We should round up in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
So okay, let me skip that little bit of explanation I was going to give and just go ahead and okay, let me not skip it. So what I just wanted to show us now is if you come over here and you say I want to go home, right? I want to go home. Well, nothing happens. That's because we've not created a dialogue. We haven't created any dialogue. So very quickly, so now you can see go home, and this is a dialogue. But a good way of managing these things really is for you to actually launch. So now this is a trigger. Greeting is a trigger. This go home here is a trigger, if you remember when we created it. So but now we want to add a dialogue, which is so we are just going to come over here and we're just going to say add a dialogue, go home. Okay, we don't like spaces. Go home dialogue, and click on OK. So right here in the go home dialogue, what we can now do, okay, so just the final point I'm going to say before we test finally, you have flexibility on how the conversation goes, on what is being said and all of that. So these are the options you have. You can send a response, you can ask a question, you can get a text number confirmation. Confirmation is yes or no. So you can actually get, you can even ask for a file, you can get all of those things. You can create a condition, if and else switch, you can loop, okay, you can do dialog management, which is what we're going to do now. You can manage properties, so you can get variables, save variables, and you can actually call HTTP services, you can connect to a skill, and all of those fancy things. So right now, let's just, okay, let's just, first of all, okay, over here, this is the trigger. So this and this are not yet connected, so we need to connect it. So what we are just going to do is dialog management, and we are just going to say begin a new dialogue, right? So once we come over here, you can see dialogue name, we just choose the go home dialogue. So once it recognizes this intent, it's just going to go to the go home dialogue. So to recognize that, let's just say send a response. So let's just say sending you home, right? Okay, so over here, we can just come over here and say, let's just ask a question. So now we are already in the go home dialogue. Let's just say, okay, no, this is not a question. Let's just say, ask a question. So we want a text, right? So let's just say, where is your home? Okay, if that's correct English. So where's your home? So now you can see once we created the question, he added these two nodes. So it says prompt for text and user input. So this prompt for text is this bot asks. So this is what the bot is asking. Then user input is the response that comes in. So what we can actually do is we can save it into a variable. And so let's just say user. Okay, let's just say user.home. So we've saved that into a variable there, and let's just stop there. So you can see over here user.home equals input text. So let's just come over here and say send a response, and let's say we are taking you. Okay, so now let's get the variable. For you to get variables, you use your curly braces, and you just come over here and say user. Okay, so you need to have a dollar symbol at the front there. So I'm just going to say user, right? User dot, okay, this should be a small letter. User dot home. Okay, so let me come over here to this place. User dot home, right? Then over here, just come over. Okay, there's a comma behind. All right, so I believe it's happy now. So let's just run this, and you know, we can just round up there. So once again, it's so anytime you, instead of clicking save, what you just do is you restart your bot, because it actually saves it while you're working. So but for you to be able to test, you restart your bot, so it pulls and regenerates all of those things again. Okay, so now it's running. So let me come back to my bot emulator and restart the conversation. Hello, I am IntentBot. Okay, so let's just say I am going home. Okay, so it said sending you home. Where is your home? Let's just say VI, right? Go to VI. So now you can see we are taking you to VI. So you can see that we are able to get the variable, and a step further really is being able to use entities. So even though the person enters a text, you can still extract the particular entity that has been typed. And you know, from the next installment, we're going to look at how to use entities. We're going to look at how to publish to Azure, and we'll work with one or two conditions and those other options that are available within the software. So at this point, I was just going to hand over to Chisom, and you know, she can just. So Chisom, over to you. That's what we have for today.
All right, Kayode, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was a very interesting session. Thank you for giving us an in-depth knowledge of language understanding, the importance of intent and trigger questions when building chatbots. So we have reached the Q&A session. If you have any questions, kindly signify by using the raised hand feature in the meeting window, and I'll call on you to ask your question, or you can simply type it in the comment section and I'll read it out to our speaker. Do we have any questions, please? Okay, we have a comment from Oloranti who says the topic is very interesting. Thank you, Oloranti. Do we have any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ayotunde. He says, Kayode, well done. Well presented. Oloranti says, we'd like to see more of this. Thank you, Oloranti. So we don't have any other questions. Okay, we have a question from Steven. He says, I hope this can be deployed to other platforms like WhatsApp too.
To get it to WhatsApp, it involves, it's not as direct as this, but you can actually get it to WhatsApp. So for you to be able to do that, there's this service called Twilio, right? So Twilio allows is more like, it allows you to be able to add API functionalities to messaging within your application. So Twilio has a direct connection to WhatsApp. So you can integrate this with Twilio, then from Twilio, get it to WhatsApp.
Okay, thank you, Kayode. Damilola has a question. He says, can this be integrated to Microsoft Teams?
To Microsoft Teams, yes, it can, because you know, from the bot service, you can actually, well, I know Power Virtual Agents can be integrated to Microsoft Teams, but I can't totally ascertain if this can. But you know, since it's on the bot service, let's not just say from our head. Let's go to the list of the where it can be deployed. So bot service channels. So if it's not in the channels, then it can't get on Teams. So because from the way I know Microsoft works, Well, let me not, because I have a feeling it might not be deployed on Teams because they have Power Virtual Agents. So for the sake of selling virtual agents, it might not be supported. So over here, Teams is not there. So we can't have this on Teams. So, but if you want to have a bot on Teams, then you can look into using Power Virtual Agents. It has a very similar UI in terms of
It's there now,
creating bots.
Microsoft Teams. Sorry.
Oh, it's there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Microsoft
yeah,
Teams.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. So I believe that has answered the question.
Thank you, Ido.
Thank you very much.
We still have some more questions.
Okay.
From Madam Jamaica. Thanks, Kayode, for the session. Please, what is the difference between Azure bot services and Q&A maker?
Okay, so thank you, Ma, for that question. They're actually different, right? They are Q&A maker is for creating knowledge bases, but bot service is what takes your code, the code of your bot, and presents it to the world. So you know, in Azure we have app services, which after you code your app, you now need to answer the question: how do users get to access my app? Well, you can deploy it to app service, and through that, users can get to access your app from all over the world. So that's similar to what bot service does. Actually, under the hood, bot service is implemented with app service. So, but you know, it's just geared towards bots. So that's why they kind of have a different name for it. But if you check your resource group, you will see that it is an app service under the hood. So it's just what makes your bot accessible to people all over the world.
Thank you, Kayode. We have another question from Oluwafemi. He says, is the bot composer subscription based or free?
No, it's free. It's free. So it is if you remember from the presentation, I said it's an open source tool. So it's as free as free can get. So you can see Bot Framework Composer is an open source visual authoring canvas for developers. So it's free. But where you need to pay is where it comes to deploying it on bot service.
Okay. We have one more question and we'll call it a day. Thanks for your, this from Felipe. He says, thanks for your presentation, Kayode. Currently, I'm preparing to take Azure AI 100 exam now AI 102. Could you tell us where we can study more about Bot Composer, hopefully with hands-on exercises?
Okay, that's a good question. Now, if you remember, I went to a page here, right? And so over here, if you can get to this page, probably, you know, one thing I would just want to mention first off is Microsoft has really created a very good platform for you to be able to learn. Though, you know, it depends on your style of learning, right? So some people would rather have an instructor, would rather have someone take them and walk them and hold their hands through. You understand? And that's actually a very good way of learning, because you don't just learn what is there, but you get to learn the person's experience also, right? So that's why. So I would first of all say, get someone to walk you through it, because it's going to be faster, and you know, you kind of have a good overview of it very quickly. But well, if you don't want to go through that route, you can actually come to the docs, to the documentation, and which is what we can actually see here. So if you walk through the documentation, you can get to learn these things, right? But you know, it's actually from a more technical side. You have to walk through. So you can see over here tutorials. So tutorial, introduction, create a bot, add a dialogue. So you can see this is sort of an outline on, so you can see add a dialogue, get weather reports, stuff like that. So you can either use the docs or you can get an instructor. So that's my answer to that question.
Okay, thank you very much, Kayode. I believe we have now come to the end of the webinar. Thank you all so much for your time. I hope you learned something new today. Today's session will be made available on our YouTube page, so you can access it. I'll share the link again.